Yeah. Go ahead and tell me your name.
Graham Young.
Okay. And just for some history, where did you grow up and how did this influence your writing?
I have no idea. I think the whole experience of life influences one's writing, one's thought, generally.
Okay. Understood. Understood. Who are your favorite authors? Do you have any select authors that you like to read and like to read their work?
Not really specifically. Some of the earlier writers fascinate me, but that is mainly because of the strange way they handle, strange to me, way they handle the language.
Right. Okay. So, Graham, what does the title "So Ends This Day" mean? What does that mean?
It is what a captain of a vessel at sea wrote on his logbook at the end of the day. So ends this day, and it meant that that day was closed. Anything after that was the next day.
That sums it up, right? So it's a nautical term and an old term from the logbook, and I believe you did go into a little bit of about the logbooks in the So Ends This Day series. Tell me about your sailing experience, because I'm sure that part of the book was because you do have sailing experience. So tell us about that.
Well, my father was a very clean sailor. He and his cousin had a little iron boat. It was a sailboat, centreboard, and it was called the Kelpie, and they sailed all around England and Scotland in it. And so, of course, he brought us up as sailing boys. We always had to sail and row. And actually, we did a lot of rowing in fours, not in eights, but in fours, and it was great fun. We get out in places like Mombasa Harbour in Kenya and go early in the morning when it was still reasonably cool. We'd have an akauda, in other words, a bosun, an African, who'd steer for us, and we whites would be at the oars. My dad, my brother, myself, and then, you know, well, a fellow called Bwana Chigdol, who was head of the customs, and we'd go out rowing, and you know, it was damned hot even early in the morning.
Wow.
You'd be pouring with sweat.
Sounds like home here in Naples.
Yeah.
In the summer.
Well, Mombasa.
Yeah.
Yes, East Africa. Yes, it's very interesting. Not a dull life, I have to admit.
Right.
Okay.
So when was that? When you were sailing there in
Oh
Africa?
no, this was when I was probably 15 or 16 years of age.
Okay. So maybe in the 30s, 40s,
Yes.
1940s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
40s.
Yes, it would be
late
about
30s.
then.
Late
Yes.
30s, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get right into the book So Ends This Day. Understanding that it is a trilogy, when did you first start writing So Ends This Day?
Oh, a long time back, really a long time back. I'm talking now something like 10 or 12 years at least.
Okay.
And then, then I was just playing with the idea. But then gradually it formulated and narrowed down into the form which you're recording or talking about at the moment.
Right. So understanding it's December 2015, so we're talking 2001, 2002?
Yes, right back there,
Okay.
yes, even a little earlier than that.
Okay. And understanding that it is a trilogy, when did you finish writing?
Well, if you must know, I feel it is never finished.
Understood.
And that at any moment I pick up and go on.
Right. It doesn't have to end as a trilogy.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I understand it as putting a date on it. If I remember right, it was in the beginning of 2015
It was.
that you finished, because I remember talking with you and you kept saying to me, I need to get book 3 finished.
Yes. Well, in a sense they are finished, of course, but in the other sense, if necessary, the world's still ahead of it.
Right.
The world of experiences, I mean.
Sure, sure. That's right. That's right. So now, knowing that when the winds, is there a story behind the book, even though it's fiction? Is there any correlation between you or people you know or anything like that, characters or that sort of thing?
Well, really, I've read so much of history of the period in question that almost everything I've written relates to that period and relates to exactly what you're doing now.
Interesting. That is interesting. Backing up a little bit, what gave you the idea to start writing So Ends This Day? The seed, if you will.
Really, I felt, having read and written or made notes about so much of it, I felt I should put it together and give it a life of its own, out in fairness to it, almost.
Sure. Wow. Interesting. So, thinking about writing in general, when did you first start writing?
Well, believe it or not, I started writing immediately I could put pencils to paper. I started 2 things, drawing and writing. And the very first thing I ever wrote about, which I thought was terrific, was about a heroine called Malay. And her surname was Curry. I thought that was very witty, Malay Curry. And of course, when I'd written it down, I thought, how terrible, I'll never write another word. Then I thought a long time after that and said, get doing and start writing something worthwhile. Now, whether what I write is worthwhile is a matter for other people to judge, not me.
Right. That's true. That's true. Trying to judge your own work is hard because you're going to be hypercritical of your own work.
Or hyper-supportive.
Or I guess that's true too. So, what is your writing process?
I like, still to this day, to take pencil and paper and just sit down and think it up. Try and make it come to life in my mind and then begin to get it down, as I hope, so that it sounds and feels like it's living. Because if you can't put life into your words, try music or something else.
Right. That's good. That's good. Well, we talked about authors. We talked about when you first started writing So Ends This Day. We talked about when you finished it. Was understanding that you had a few different occupations. Maybe you could tell me a few of your occupations. Maybe we don't have to go into detail on this particular session, but maybe what were your occupations and how did they influence your writing?
Well, I lived and worked for years in Southern Africa and Central Africa, and to a certain extent in Northern Africa as well, but that was more the war years. And I think really what it does, it gives you endless time to reflect. Because, you know, there are really no other distractions than staying alive and doing your job. Those are the two main objectives. And since you've got to do something, you either read or write or go mad, most people just go mad.
Right.
I was too busy.
Sure. Sure.
And as I say, you have such long times to reflect. You begin to think, let's put it into something constructive. So that when I am reflecting, it takes on from where I left off last time, and then begin to build something.
Right.
Which is always more important than fragmented thought.
Right. To communicate.
Well, the main thing, of course, is to have any thought at all.
Sure, sure. Exactly. Now, what exactly were you doing over there? What was your job over there?
I was filming big game for various projects, one of them being the World Wildlife Conservation Foundation, making records of animals and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
Fascinating. However, if I had to do it again, I would do it differently. I would live with the animals. I would choose like a pack of hyenas to follow and follow them as far as one possibly could night and day.
Right.
Move with them. And they would, from experience, my experience and other animal, what shall I say, animal enthusiasts have shown that the animals will get used to you, and either they think you're part of the scenery, or maybe they think you're part of the team. But whatever it is, they just accept you, and it's amazing. You can go along with them and practically go up and touch them.
Right. Wow. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I think that, is there anything that you can think of regarding the book that you would like to say?
Well, you know, it could have been anything. It could have been a modern story dashing about in the middle of New York City. But because I read so much about the period, which is in the 1850s, mid-1800s, I felt that my heroes and action might as well be in that period too.
Sure.
And I'm very glad I did, because it's been fascinating, really fascinating. Reading about other people's lives at that time, and fortunately it was a time when, you know, it was easy to get a book published. The linotype had come in, and you know, it wasn't like, well, let us say 1350, when a book had to be handwritten.
Right.
So that it really was a peak period, and everybody was curious. There was no television at that period to conflict, no radio.
No radio, yeah.
You had church for Sundays,
Right.
and everybody went.
Right.
And it was really an unfair society, because if you didn't go, you suddenly found that your grain did not get milled.
Right. They communicated with you very subtle, but very direct.
Yes, but you got the message all right.
Right. Good. All right. Well,
Okay, sir.
thank you, Graham. And we'll,
That wraps up this session.
yes, and I'll ask you other questions later at a later time
Thank you.
about other things.